Let's dive right in. This is Billy the Platypus. He is, among other things, my mascot, and today he's fresh out of school. He's got a sharp new suit, a great attitude, and a little booklet of job hunting advice that has served his parents super well. So let's follow along as he goes through that little book on his adventure today. Rule 1, a firm handshake opens every door. Terrific. Dress sharp. Have the firm handshake. Look them in the eye. It'll surely work, except now there's no eye to look into. There's an Envoy tablet sitting there with a QR code. It wants your email address, a photo, and you to sign 8 pages of boilerplate. Sure. Okay, that's a swing and a miss. Rule 2, always hand deliver your resume. Print it out on nice paper with glorious typography. It'll make an impression. And it will make an impression on the shredder. It's going to take a minute or two to chew through that nice paper, probably because the shredder comes from Amazon Basics, the hallmark of quality. That's what the Coyote used to use to kill the Roadrunner. And, of course, persistence always pays off. Yes, apply everywhere because it's a numbers game when you're hunting for jobs. Just YOLO slam your resume every place you get. So, yeah, 400 applications later, you haven't talked to a single human being because that's not the way the world works anymore. They keep telling you to make eye contact. Great. Well, with what? At first there was someone to make it with, but now a bunch of it's AI screening with a camera and a model scoring you on enthusiasm, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. We'll come back to that. Rule 5, start in the mailroom, work your way up. No job is beneath you. Yeah, this one's classic. Everyone's heard it from well-intentioned people. The problem is there isn't a mailroom anymore. There's a mail server that Google hosts for us, mostly as best I can tell, so that corporate IT can send escalatingly unhinged series of phishing attempts as training disguised as corporate bonuses you absolutely will not be getting because they're dicks like that. And the entry-level job desk, well, there's the detritus that it used to be. This talk is called If I Were Starting Over. And I want to be clear, if I were starting over today, not back in my day. I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 years. I have pants older than some of you people. So who the hell am I? I'm Corey Quinn. I look at giant AWS bills for a living, which is why I have that dead look in my eyes all the time. And I write a newsletter that annoys the right people most of the time. The thing that I find that is relevant today is not the title, because the credential's not the important part. It's that I've watched a lot of careers start, including, badly, my own. The fact that I am wildly unemployable went from a tremendous liability to kind of a feature. And this, of course, is Billy the Platypus. He's coming along with us. He is a platypus, for those who are blissfully unaware. A mammal that lays eggs, has a duck's bill, and is actually venomous. Nature designed him by committee and then shipped him anyway, so he understands AWS far better than most, which is why I keep him around. And today, he's the everyman, or every platypus. So when the old advice fails him, it's not because the fact he's a platypus, it's that it's failing all of us. So let's watch what happens to this poor bastard today. We begin with why, so just do what I did, has become pretty useless advice across the board, which it has. I think we can all experience that. Yeah, I'm loving that lag there. So how I broke into my career was basically, again, cautionary tale. On paper, I have an 8th grade education, which made this real interesting in my 20s. My first couple of jobs were tech support, and I managed to claw my way up from there, mostly based on the realization that I don't like people and talking to them as far as support goes. So I wanted to become a sysadmin, where you don't have to talk to people, and if you've ever met a sysadmin, you know exactly why. They're not allowed to talk to people. But back then, support had a growth trajectory. There was a path you could use to get somewhere with it. And the breakout job, and I will name names here, was at Chapman University in Orange County, California. Their tech guy who did the reviews was out sick that day, not kidding. So their technical interview asked me to rate myself on the scale of 1 to 10 on a bunch of technologies, and that was it. There was no follow-up to that. So it turns out you can bluff in those rare circumstances. So I rated myself optimistically. Let's call it that. They liked my personality, such as it is, enough to call and offer me the job before I finished driving home. So I became, not kidding, their network administrator. Good luck trying that today. That story does not happen anywhere. I got stupidly lucky. Now, back then, one of the things about being the network administrator at a university that didn't do such a great job on the technical screening portion of the interview is that this was where a lot of escalated tickets wound up. And there was no other technical group that we could pass the hard stuff on to. It's like, oh, you're faced with a technical problem you can't solve, huh, buddy? Well, I look forward to you solving it because there's no escalation path for this. Your paths were to, back then, call the vendor, make friends on IRC. There was no AI to ask questions to. Stack Overflow wasn't even a condescending gleam in someone's eye yet. So for a certain kind of mind, that was a wonderful way to grow if you thrive on pressure and panic. And then as an industry, the world changed. We learned things that we probably should not have learned. We learned that you could metric a support floor to absolute death. Read the script and then goes from how fast can you resolve the ticket to, not kidding, how fast can you get them off the phone? Oh, I'm not allowed to sit through a reboot, call back and open a new ticket. Great. So the rung that I climbed back then wasn't really a job description so much as it was a place that you were allowed and encouraged to get good. Those places are mostly gone. For better or worse, companies, despite the lies they say, ignore what they say, pay attention to what they do, they don't invest in people anymore. That's a relic of a bygone era. And now the thing that's eating the next rung up that ladder isn't a policy the way it was a few years back. Now it's a product. Do the entry-level task of do the simple version and escalate the hard version is exactly the kind of thing that was getting eroded by AI right now. So the entry door, that entry-level job has the welcome mat out of, come join us, we're hiring, but it spins so fast you can't actually walk through it. You get stuck in the door perpetually. It's a prove yourself worthy just to get into that doorway, and then you're stuck in it. You can't get out to start actually moving up. The companies, ironically, that are posting the largest number of these entry-level roles are often the ones that are quietly automating these jobs away or into meaninglessness. It's a no-win game. And we're speedrunning the entry-level job as a result into what's foundationally a museum exhibit in this era. Because the job that taught you the ropes and teaches you how to work in an organization or start a career is becoming something you visit instead of something that you do. And the problem with this is it's short-sighted because these jobs are being automated away without any thought to where the next generation is going to come from. Senior engineers don't just spring fully formed from the forehead of some god. They start off as junior engineers. The reason you don't know any junior DevOps people is because you only learn through trauma, and it takes time to experience the trauma. You don't want someone to say, wow, that's a disaster. You want them to say, oh, here's what happened last time, and here's how we fixed it. So the thing that's challenging here is I don't want to give boomer-coded advice that sounds like the stuff from yesteryear. And the part that also stresses me out when I was putting this talk together is that my path has an unspoken step 0, which is be a profoundly white guy who caught a couple of very lucky breaks. I had that benefit. I had that wind at my back. Not everyone does. And this also, I want to be clear, is not a talk just for people starting out their careers, because this stuff keeps recycling back around. I've talked to a bunch of folks here so far, and many of you are my age or older, who are going through the layoff fear or have been laid off, and it turns out the ground moved when we weren't looking. And no one's handed us a manual for that either. Starting over is no longer a young person's problem. It's everyone's problem now. I mean, I am one of the absolute best in the world at getting myself fired from things. So I have found that I'm perennially looking at, all right, what is the next step? How do you hand for this? So I'm not going to give you my resume and what I did and what worked for me as a map, because it assumes a starting line that isn't here today, isn't the same for everyone, and it's for a road that has long since changed to the point of being unrecognizable. So instead, I want to talk about the handful of things that survive when the road changes and that don't assume a given starting point. I found some durable points of advice. I will dispense with it now. There's a lot of stuff that's transient out there. I've been through enough hype cycles over the course of my career that it gets wildness. And if you remember one thing, remember the thing that survives every hype cycle. And that is when people are pushing urgency, they're selling you something. I have never once seen hurry up or you'll miss the boat be true in my entire career. The good stuff waits for you. It has to, because that's what makes it good. I have been around enough cycles to see today's shiny new toy become tomorrow's legacy garbage we have to support. Anyone here from AWS should be feeling very uncomfortable right now. So I have receipts on this because I have been wrong adjacent, if not outright wrong, enough times that I've learned to trust the pattern. Eventually, you can't beat ideas into my thick skull. When people are free to do as they please, they usually emulate each other. I read that on a poster years ago from despair.com, and it's true. It's a great demotivational poster. The urgency always tends to travel in groups, large crowds. Everyone's running the same way, all checking the same clock. Do you think it's a coincidence that Microsoft, Google, and Amazon have all rushed to shove AI into every corner of every product and then give each one of them a giant, uniform, stupid name that has now become distilled into irrelevance? What the hell is a Copilot? There are over 75 products Microsoft ships, not exaggerating, that have the name Copilot on it. It's like a sick joke, except everyone's doing it. A crowd is not evidence. It is just a bunch of people, presumably in a hurry, and they don't know where they're going. Another example, crypto. I watched that whole thing unfold, and I spent 15 years trying to understand it, and the only thing I ever saw was that there was a solution in search of a problem, and the only problems that it found up slotting into neatly were either fraud or fraud adjacency. And okay, great, I've given up on it. And the people yelling that you don't get it, you're going to miss it the entire time. Every single time I saw it, they were selling something. Now, of course, we're in a different world where computers can do all of the work, and they're only wrong 20% of the time. Pick a number, doesn't matter, because that's the actual pitch right now for AI. And not for nothing, this isn't new. We've always had this option. We could always have hired an army of interns, paid them next to nothing, and who are also wrong, confidently so, a bunch of the time, and we mostly didn't do that for a series of reasons that were excellent. Read the fine print on every miracle that winds up getting sold, because it's always there. They just don't advertise it front and center. I mean, take it one time in five that your computer is going to be wrong now. Would we accept that from a calculator or from a coworker? And you can argue, confidently so, that maybe that's the wrong number. Maybe for certain use cases, it's only wrong 5% of the time, once in 20. Cool. Does that seem production grade for a whole bunch of things when it actually counts? For some things, sure. For all things, absolutely not. Now, I want to be clear. I am not anti-AI. I am not here to rant about how it's terrible and it's just a jumped-up autocomplete. I'll show you in a minute how it genuinely won things. But what I am is anti-panic. I'm anti-hype. The panic feels almost manufactured at this point, and the people that are pushing it are once again very clearly trying to sell us all something. This is Bain's number, by the way. By 2030, the AI build-out needs approximately $2 trillion in revenue to pay for all of the compute that is being locked in now on this. Their projection is that it's going to come up by roughly $800 billion short. I want to give a point of scale here because that's monstrous. Apple's iPhones and Macs together pull about $240 billion a year. You'd need almost 10 Apples to pull that together. Amazon's whole business of selling clouds, ads, underpants, and then giving them all stupid names, yeah, that's about $717 billion all in. That doesn't crack $1 trillion, and you need 2 of those. There's no number of MacBooks that are going to close that gap because they're not selling you a product here. What they're selling is the story, that there will someday be a product here, but asking everyone to prepay for it, which is why it's showing up basically everywhere. And it'll work if we just have enough faith. Watch how the money moves. A lot of the same dollar going in a circle and it gets counted at every new lab. I'm going to buy your chips, you're going to buy my cloud, and we're both going to book record quarters. The industry calls this an ecosystem, which is a kind of generous word doing a lot of work for 3 companies passing a $20 bill around the table and each writing down now that they got rich. Now, eat your vegetables, it's good to you, or good for you, is what you say about a product that nobody actually wants. When the pitch ends up being a guilt trip instead of a benefit, that starts to tell you something too. The same tell, by the way, happens to recognize bubbles, which are easy to recognize in retrospect, but tricky to do when they start growing. When an industry has to run a culture change campaign to survive, odds are not great on that being a great long-term play. When the message becomes, you've got to spend more tokens / light more money on fire in order to be taken seriously, that's not a pitch, it's a loyalty test. Real tools don't need you to be scared. They just need to work. The good tools are the ones you go out of your way to pay for them. They aren't shoved into something that you already pay for just so they can slap you with an upcharge. Now, you want some proof that I had time, that I can make this argument, is I came to cloud late. 2015 to 2016 is when I got seriously into cloud. That is late enough that the you missed the boat crowd would have long since written me off. And it didn't matter nearly as much as you might think. I think I've done all right when it comes to talking about cloud. It didn't matter even a little bit. You have more time than anyone who's pushing urgency wants you to believe. The future is coming whether we like it or not. And something I've learned over the years is that fear is a terrible operating system to work from. An awful lot of the fear also is coming from, I see it in some of you, I see it in myself, is the fear of losing the thing that makes you special. And this comes most of the time from folks who haven't really sat down and thought deeply about what it is that makes them special. It's not writing code. It's not the technology piece of it. So many of us build our entire identity out of the technology that we work on. The technology shifts and we're suddenly desperately clinging to Perl because it's going to come back someday. I still have faith. I mean, I miss the idea of writing code that could only be written and never read. Turns out that there are other ways to do that now. And I mention this, but the reason I care about this is when people start getting scared for their future, they become terrific targets for scams and things that are scam-shaped. How many folks are building out boot camps and curriculums and certification programs for a technology that's changing week to week? The certification industrial complex has some explaining to do. I'm not saying that AI is a scam. Truly, I'm not. But there's a need for suckers right now to feed into the grift around it. Don't be the sucker. Now, I want to be clear, my take on AI here, this is not a hype reel, but it's not a hate reel. The future is coming, and pretending it's not is just a different form of denial. But everyone who can tell you the exact shape of the future is going to try and sell you something. The future is going to happen. It's going to look different than anyone will have you believe. AI is real. It is career limiting at this point to pretend that it is a fad. I find myself being a centrist for the first time in my career because I don't think it's just jumped up autocomplete. It is clearly more capable than that. Conversely, I do not believe we are going to successfully manage to summon God through JSON. I think both people at the ends of that spectrum are ridiculous. They start the horseshoe theory. They start to look pretty much the same, just different flavors of wackadoo. So the honest version, from my perspective, is not AI bad. But I will say that it's important you don't outsource your thinking. Learn AI or get left behind is still a sale. The panic is there. The tool is also real. Both things can be true at the same time, which is something the internet hates. Oh, two complex things, both true. We don't do nuance here. So let's start with what's real. The genuine non-reversible win that is not going away is coding assistance. I don't ever want to go back to writing code by hand. It is terrible. I am not good at it. The future is here, and this is a part of it that is genuinely good. A lot of people are waxing nostalgic about human code, like it's bespoke, it's artisanal. They're talking about the old days of human code like it was this beautiful thing. My friends, it was not. I have run that shit in production. Well, now we don't understand the code that's going into production. We have never understood Stephen's code, ever. And you can't shove the genie of technology back in the bottle. I've watched people try. That's where corporate, we're going to ban AI mandates go. And then people pull it up on their phone or whatnot. And now you have a data leak as well as the rest of the problems going along with it. Good luck. The point is not to get rid of the technology. It's who controls it. Whose hands stay on the controls? Don't outsource that. I saw a shirt or a sign back in the 90s that said, think. It's the only thing keeping a computer from taking your job. It's every bit as true now as it was back then. There is a line, and it's the whole point, though. I think that editing can make a thing more itself. Using AI to edit is pretty awesome. That's a good use of it. Writing from scratch makes it more average, and it regresses toward everything, and that's awful. When we started seeing AI get good a couple of years ago, people saw, oh my God, it writes like a middle manager, and came to the wrong conclusion, which is AI is self-aware, and not the correct conclusion, which is that middle managers are not self-aware. And now we're all sort of stuck with the problem here. Don't hand it the thing that only makes it yours. My rule, the one that I would hand a newcomer that I do all the time, is I let AI edit things that I do for development purposes, for flow. There's a reason, unlike some of my previous talks, this does not circle the same point to death 5 times like a persistence hunter without ever getting to it until it dies of exhaustion. I bring the core of what I want to say, my stream of consciousness. It's like, okay, you're now 3 nested parenthetical deeps because ADHD means every thought comes with exciting bonus content. Great, let's turn this into a flow and make this something entertaining. If you ask it to write in your voice and say, make the jokes funnier, it's magic. The jokes get worse. Your voice is your asset. It's the thing that distinguishes you. Don't give that away. Now, I could give you advice. You want to talk about boomer advice? This is what I was saying last year, that the comfortable version of it is relax. AI is just an intern. It can do the work, but it can't own real decisions or make real decisions. And I said that with a straight face, and I believed it, and it's already starting to age badly. Have you seen Fable 5 in the 20 minutes we had it before it got yanked away? Mythos? Whatever line I draw today about what AI can't do, someone is going to ship something that goes past it by the time this talk winds up on YouTube. And the trap that I'd be walking into is that I'd be standing up here confidently telling you that this is where the ceiling is. I'd be confident. I'd be completely wrong. That can be replaced with an LLM. It's the boomer advice booklet again. Only now it's the firm handshake for robots, which honestly would probably be the good name for a booklet on these things. So the durable version of this all isn't a list of what AI can and can't do, but it's this. Don't outsource 2 things here. Your wisdom and your judgment. And the internet access. I'm blaming Amazon somehow for that. There we go. This is the version that survives. Everything else will industrialize. Work, the code, the boilerplate get cheaper and they get faster, but the wisdom to apply it and the judgment of what works and what doesn't. Remember, management decided a long time ago that they were right, that their responsibility is to ensure that the work gets done. Employees were just their current approach to this. So how do we make sure that work gets done? Well, everyone starts to become a manager in some ways. You don't hand the intern or some yutz or whoever it is your root credentials for AWS and say, decide on our database strategy for the next 3 years, because I tell you now, you can fight me, but you'll be wrong. They're all databases if you hold them wrong. It's great. That's not an insult to the intern. It's just not the intern's job. It's not the fact the intern is dumb, it gets worse. It's that with AI, and this is why you keep judgment, confidence does not scale with correctness here. It is a junior who doesn't know something usually sounds a little unsure. And that uncertainty is itself useful information when they're dealing with something dangerous. AI sounds exactly as confident as when it's right, as when it's wrong, as when it is making things up completely from scratch. Its confidence does not scale. Its accuracy kind of does. And that is the single worst thing you can do or the worst trait you can have when you are handing this thing production credentials. A failing grade in any interview I've ever been in is you can be wrong, but if you're confidently wrong, bluffing, that doesn't go well because now I have to question everything you tell me. And you wind up in that same confident tone, whether it nailed it or invented it. And there is no possible way without doing your own research on this to figure out which it is. Now, a nervous junior sounds nervous when they're guessing. So you have to wind up supplying the doubt yourself, which means you have to question everything it says. But with all these agents running all the time, who has time for that? Not I. But I will say, use AI where it earns its keep. In the parts of your workflow that you can wrap your head around, that you understand boilerplate, variable definitions, documentation, test-driven development. For the first time as an industry, we're actually doing what we say we do on the conference stages and writing tests for things. It's amazing. Use it and don't feel bad about it. Review harder where it hurts you. Trade-offs, standards, root cause, one-way doors. Anything that depends on something that no one wrote down is a great place to really dig into. The should we, not the can we. The should we, that remains yours, and it has to, because human in the loop. Without it, it will become human in the noose, and you don't want it to be you. AI is a tourist. It'll describe your city or architecture beautifully, but it's going to have no idea what street not to walk down at night. The AI did it. Is not a buck pass. It's cool. That's how the work got done, but I still own the outcome. So what happens now? We talked about people. What about when companies outsource their thinking? Remember Billy talking to a lens for the job interview piece of it? That's not just me making a joke. Amazon Connect Talent. They announced it a couple months back. It is a real AWS product, insofar as AWS products are ever real. It is shipped this spring. It is still in preview. It's an entire AI-powered interview where you sit there in front of your webcam. It runs the interview, it reads your face, it scores your voice, it decides whether you get the job for entry-level stuff or if a human ever talks to you at all. It is pitched as removing bias, and I find it deeply dehumanizing, which is perfect for, the company that strives to be the Earth's best employer. There's a centuries-old word, by the way, for deciding someone's worth by reading their face. It's called phrenology. AWS just gave it an API and a giant monthly bill. And it turns out, which they won't tell you, a bunch of places have opinions about a machine deciding who gets hired. New York City, Illinois, Maryland, California, Texas, the entirety of the EU all have requirements there. They need bias audits, they need consent waivers, they need candidate notices, and that is just what is currently enforced today. Annual audits are required in New York City, consent is required in Illinois and Maryland, and the EU treats a hiring AI tool as high risk. Act accordingly. None of the vendors shipping these things act like any of it exists. The compliance slide isn't there. AWS only mentions this in one place after I roasted them for it. Section 40 of their terms of service, buried in a giant document that nobody alive has read end to end. It's not on the product page. It's the marketing slides at the event say it removes biases loud and up front. The part where they admit that you own every law that it breaks is buried in a service terms area, so no one reads it. The company wires up the AI interviewer. It scores faces and voices as we apply for jobs, and surprise, the companies get to find out what jurisdiction they're in when the complaint shows up. And that's a trap. You don't learn about the regulation up front. You find out about it as a fine, an audit, a lawsuit, a candidate's lawyer reaching out, and learning the law after the fact always leaves a mark. They even itemize the list for you in section 40.8, which I was not going to put on a slide because, Jesus, that's a lot of words. But it talks about anti-discrimination, biometrics requirements, wiretap requirements, the works, and then lets you step on it anyway, and the product itself doesn't say anything about it. They knew, they wrote it down in a way that says, not our problem, and then sold it to us. Yeah, that's customer obsession. And it's not only their side that's gone insane. The reference check itself is now a proctored exam. I was talking to someone who wound up getting a reference check, and they wound up having a proctored setup where, all right, it takes control of your computer, it's on a screen and the rest, and that's a hell of a lot to ask me to do for someone that I'm doing you a professional favor by giving you a reference check as an employer. So I built the candidate side mirror as a joke called Stealth. It's my stealth startup in stealth mode. Rico is a service. Yes, this does actually count as racketeering. If you're not careful, don't actually do this. They outsourced your reference check, and so can you. Like, you worked at Delve, but don't want to admit that because who would? Great. Go to stealthstartup.com. It is satire. The site says so. Faking references is technically fraud. Don't do it. But the point is that how far this has drifted to the point where me suggesting such a thing actually doesn't come across as insane out of the gate, because that's the point we live in here. So, Okay, let's talk about the doom, more about the door. Here's what we actually do. Here is how we get in, and here's what keeps paying off once you are there, which, by the way, is not a stage of life. It's a cycle, and we always find ourselves back there. Because left alone, a career is what happens to you instead of something that you manage. Reorgs, layoffs, whatever the market does this quarter, and now the entire trajectory of your life has changed. Corporate loyalty is a fool's game. They will lay you off without blinking and call it a hard decision. You cannot love your employer because your employer can never love you back. So you have to manage your own career. Companies will not do it for you. The part that people also don't warn you about is that once you're in, you're often stuck there. Because the big moves up almost always mean changing jobs. Companies are weirdly uncomfortable promoting their own people and handing out significant raises. Loyalty gets you a 3% bump. Leaving gets you 20%. So the only antidote to this that I've found that ever work has been being deliberate. Decide what you're aiming at, or you're going to get aimed and not even realize it. A trick I like to use to ask people who aren't sure what they should do next: cool, great, that's all of us. Ignore your next job. What's the job after that one? And what do you need to be able to get there? That tells you what your next job should be. So I talked about my first job. Let's talk about the last real job I got in 2015 at a now defunct robo-advisor called Future Advisor, because AWS does not have a monopoly on stupid names. Shortly before BlackRock bought and then crashed them into the side of a mountain, I was there. I was employee 41. The interview was going, typical for a DevOps person, terribly. They were asking the typical CS algorithm questions, like, can you implement quicksort on a whiteboard? Great question to ask Amazon as you pull up their services list and ask them if they can implement it in production, which doesn't go well. The CS algorithm stuff, the things you cram and then forget. And I said, hang on, ignore that for a second. What is the last infrastructure problem you had and couldn't solve? And to give you an error here, they start diagramming a real problem, which was migrating from EC2 Classic into VPCs. They tried it, it failed twice. So, okay, great, on the whiteboard. Hey, can I see the pen? Let me guess, it failed here, here, and here. And if you've done that migration, you know exactly what I just circled on that diagram there. And then 5 more people drift into the room. And can you say that again? And then I had the job. And 3 months later, all of the hard stuff was taken care of. And I started becoming my inevitable descent into being a terrible employee, because when I get bored, I find problems and sometimes create them along the way. Nobody who matters in an interview is going to be impressed by your ability to recite big O notation or other trivia answers. They're impressed when you can point at a real problem you can solve, when you can make a real fire stop burning. So I found it always helps to start steering those conversations into actual problems companies have and figuring out what the answer is. That can be the whole interview. Companies, we all stress about interviews because it's a meaningful portion of our lives here. This determines the future of what we're doing. There's no real training for it company side. For them, it's any given Tuesday. They're more interested in what's going to be for lunch than the conversation they're having. Every question you will ever be asked in a job interview is only 3 questions, mix and match to taste. Can you do the job? Will you do the job? Can we stand working with you? If the answer to that is yes to all 3 of them, you have a great shot. If the answer to any of those is no, then okay, now we're talking about trade-offs. Now, there's a hierarchy of needs that underpins all of this. Interviews are very much a two-way street. You have to decide to work there. They can't force you to. But, when rent is due in 3 weeks and you don't have it, remembering from my 20s personally, you will take jobs that you would otherwise pass on, and there's zero shame in any of that. Your resume is a story that you tell. It is not an exhaustive ledger of every job you've ever had. People get that one confused. Not every job you have to make ends meet has to make the cut. For anyone who is between gigs, who's trying to figure out, what do I do? There's a hole in my resume. That gap is not a verdict. But also, keep looking. Don't take the temp job to tide you over and then look up and realize you forgot to manage your career and 20 years has gone by in that same job and you didn't realize it until after the fact. Again, companies are terrible at hiring too. You can read the scar tissue if you want to take a cynical read to almost any job posting out there. Somewhere I have seen on a job description that a company said, we are not looking for rock stars or ninjas. And you know with total certainty that that's because they hired exactly one, rock star ninja, and they have not emotionally recovered from that trauma. Every weirdly specific job requirement is a tiny restraining order against a former employee. I mean, Allison Green at Ask a Manager makes the same point. When a posting gets oddly specific, the company had a very bad experience with one specific person. Every emphatic requirement is something of an autobiography, and you almost want to say in the job application, like the cover letter of, don't worry, I'm not Stephen. So that was how you get in the door. What I found is that what keeps you there is the things that make you valuable. To be clear, people are confused about this. I do not, nor have I ever worked for AWS for reasons that make a lot of sense on both sides of that. I'm the guy who's outside who makes fun of them in a newsletter due to my crappy excuse for a personality. But that critique is a voice of the customer style arrangement, and it works. Because I use the thing wrong, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident, in public, and they have to sit there and take notes. And I find the service teams at AWS are constantly surprised when I use the thing in a way that they didn't intend to do. But my honest answer to that is, well, why wouldn't you use it like that? It makes sense. That's the thing it does. It's because I'm not close enough to the internal vision of a product to be blinded by it. I'm new. That's a feature. Like, yeah, I'm reasonably proficient at a lot of this stuff, but I don't know the specifics of your product, so I get to look at it with fresh eyes. That's a big thing. You, being new at a company, see the thing that they're doing clearly precisely because no one's told you yet how you're supposed to see it. I still don't think that anyone has ever started a job and the onboarding docs were accurate, and that's always the first job you should take, because the last person didn't. This is how you set up your developer environment, kinda. Go talk to someone over in the corner. They'll explain the caveats here. Great. The newcomer, though, is valuable. They see the loose ball because no one's trained them yet to look past it. Why would you do it that way is a superpower. Guard it, or the industry will sand it off before you get there. I also find that being T-shaped is valuable. It's the idea of being broad across a wide variety of things is helpful, but also be deep in a few. Expertise is fascinating, but general, well, it's not in my job description yet. We'll figure it out. Adds valuable. Stack skills together. It works out well. Like I have a weird stack. I'm a tiny real customer at a startup. I'm a voice for big customers that I help with bills. I'm a very public critic. I look kind of like a journalist sometimes because I write for the Register twice a month. And none of those is a real analyst or anything like it. That combination is rare, even though each piece is wildly common. Put them all together and it starts to make sense. When people can clearly define you, they can file you away and then they can ignore you as a result. So we're light on actionable tips. So I found that be known for a thing. When I started Duckbill, I was a decent cloud architect and SRE type, but so were 1,000 other people, including a bunch of you in this room. The moment I smashed that into finance, I became the cloud cost guy. In 2016, no one was really doing that. Niches are where expertise compounds. Take mine. I start with an ordinary skill of being a sysadmin. Nothing rare. Lots of folks have that. Smack it into accounting. That doesn't clearly go with it. Now, I'm not an accountant, but when you say spend less money than you make, you may as well be, especially in this era. It's wild. And of course, people don't always know this, I am German. You smash the three of it, the center of that Venn diagram is apparently a recipe for absolute comedy. Three notoriously funny things, and here I am, which is why I get to give talks like this. And that weird combo is an example. The most valuable corner of anyone's diagram is the human stuff. Managing people and managing agents are a lot closer than they look. It's hard enough to clearly articulate what we want that engineers have called it prompt engineering because we need a very special word for very special people to say clearly articulate what you're trying to achieve. I mean, I got a bit of a head start just because when you spend your life hunting for the exact phrase, when words become the whole job, tell the thing exactly what you mean is a skill that it turns out I already had. The skills that survive every wave are the human ones. Managing people, reading a room, asking the question that unlocks a thing. Soft skills, a garbage name for these things. They're the hard part. They're the part that takes years, and they get automated last. If I could force one skill on everyone at this point, it'd be writing. Make sure that you know how, make sure you can articulate yourself in writing, because it's where the thinking happens. It's leverage and it travels while you sleep. Smart people say otherwise. Do video. That's what's really going to grow. I'm taking the opposite bet. Time will tell who's right, but I'd rather read an 800-word post that you write about how to do a thing than watch you assemble your thoughts in real time for half an hour on a live stream. Now, if you can only pick one skill to be good at, the answer is clear. You should pick lying, because if you're good at lying, you're good at everything. No, if you can only pick one thing, it has to be learn how to learn. The tech you learn today will not be the tech in 15 years or 15 months or hell, 15 minutes these days, which is the whole con behind learn this specific thing right now or you're finished. So that's the problem. One skill that continues to pay out and will for your entire life is learning how to learn. Everything else has got a shelf life. This is what I wish people had told me back when I'd gotten started. It's why AI and a brand new hire fail in the same way. Production is geological. Every layer is crap piled upon crap, and everything supports a layer above it, and there's a reason that you can't see. Just rewrite it cleanly. Yeah, sure, next year is going to be the one to replace the mainframe. We've only been trying for 40 years, but now that AWS is a shiny service with a stupid name, that'll fix it. AI and the new hire are still going to take things down because neither one was there for the 2019 outage. Neither had the context that lives only in that senior engineer's head. They look at the weird column and say, oh yeah, don't touch that. That thing's load bearing. Be careful. The new hire and the AI go, oh, it's messy. Let me clean it up. And you don't get to talk to the senior engineer about it anymore because you drove them out of the company while dicking around with the performance reviews and AI mandates. So they got a job offer from Anthropic with the rest of the cultists. A senior engineer is a lighthouse keeper because they know where the rocks are because they saw the ships hit them. So if you're the new one, don't sail blind. Don't let the robot sail blind for you. Find the lighthouse keeper, ask where the rocks are. The map's out there, just in someone's head. And the fix is cheap. Just write down the context, the decision, and the consequence. Plus, I always love what this is not sections of the README. Don't use it like this is the most valuable stuff you can write down, because otherwise you're going to use it like that. I've been using Route 53 as a database for years because no one told me not to until it was far too late. So, frankly, everything's a pile of geology here. The trillion-dollar company, AWS, is technical debt, start to finish. There's no way to fix that stuff. No one is standing on clean ground. There is no such thing as a pristine architecture. It is all a burning dumpster fire of sadness and regret. We call it production. I have never seen a company where that's not true. The marble lobby sits on top of plumbing from 3 reorgs back. You can't see the debt from the lobby. You inherit it the moment you start building there. And when the big company won't fix the experience, someone else builds the thing that they should have. Vercel is now over a $10 billion company, and they're built entirely on top of AWS. And the only reason that they exist is because AWS does not have the will to create a front-end, quick-release app deployment service that is not dog shit. So there you go. That's the opportunity. Vercel seems to be doing fine. I'm not saying use Vercel. It's don't wait for giants to make this stuff easy. Find the niche and fill it. Now a bit of guidance. Protect with compounds. Things that pay off quickly and you can destroy very quickly as well. Again, I'm a cautionary tale, not advice. Not everyone should start a company. That is fine. It's a very specific form of masochism if you enjoy pain. It is not for everyone, and be a genuinely great engineer for 30 years is absolutely fine as a completely respectable career path. I would also say the world does not need more content creators because now with AI everyone can be, but first and foremost they are lacking a lot of the important thing, which is have something to say. Whenever anyone tells you, as they do in my case, your personality is a problem. Great. An editor once cut a joke and it neutered my own voice, so I put it back. It sounds petty, which it kind of was, but that's not why I did it. If your personality is central to what you do, defend it like you would defend production. If it isn't, well, why do we need you? Be you. You can also lose your voice by selling it for reach. Don't manufacture engagement bait. Otherwise, you can get up here and basically make a living out of pissing people off and then sell ads against it. I'm not a fan of. You can sell people's trust exactly once, so make it count. Meaning, don't do it. It needs to be like nesting doll yacht money in order to make that work. Also, I hate when people call it networking because it's relationships. Networking makes it sound transactional. What can you do for me? If the answer isn't something obvious, then great. There's no point. The payoff cycle is long. A year, 2 years. My first year and a half of consulting came from existing relationships, no marketing, just people I knew who remembered that I'd helped them. Mechanics are stupid simple. Find people, smile, get to know what they're doing, take a genuine interest in what they're up to, and then move on, keep working the room. You plant these relationships and you forget them, and you start introducing people to one another. And again, guard the introductions you make. I mean, I'm thrilled to introduce people, but I'm spending my credibility to do it. 2 months ago, I introduced someone who's on the market to a friend of mine who ran a startup. That friend ghosted him, didn't respond to his emails, missed a meeting, and that was the end of it. That permanently ended my willingness to ever introduce him to anyone else ever again. Because every intro you blow off damages the person that made it. Like, you don't have to hire someone I introduce you to, but you should at least show up for the meeting. LinkedIn rule for me, at least, also, I only connect with people I've had conversations with. If you watch this talk, great, and you enjoy what I say, awesome, and you send me a LinkedIn connection request, I don't know who the hell you are, I need to be able to pick you out of a police lineup, and also, hopefully, will not have to. Like, that's my rule on it. It's the same reason why applying cold to job recs never gets anywhere. This is old man speaking here. Spend money on your body before you think you need to. A real chair, a setup doesn't wreck your wrists. It's cheap insurance, the only hardware you can get. The other unglamorous one that I had myself reminded of in 2024 when my business partner and wife teamed up to force me to take a 6-week vacation because I hadn't taken one in 10 years. Burnout doesn't announce itself. You won't notice it until you're already broken. Don't make that mistake. So if I were starting over, great. There are rungs missing on the ladder. Fine, you build new rungs. Refuse the urgency. It's always a sale. Use AI, however, everything you want, but don't outsource judgment to it. Solve real problems instead of performing your credentials. Write things down. Defend your voice. Guard your relationships. Rest. And none of that assumes you're me. None of that's the point. For me, my North Star is pretty simple. I have 2 young daughters. And one day, when they ask where the college fund came from, the answer will be that I won't be ashamed of the answer, whatever it is. I'm not going to do things that I have to hold my nose ethically to do. Run your own version of that test on the work in front of you. That's the better compass than any roadmap I can give you on this. I want to be clear here. The future is coming regardless. Fear isn't useful, and the moment you get afraid is the moment you start dying. You can start late. I did. I was fine. You're not behind. You're on time. Go build something you're not going to be ashamed of. I want to be clear here. The boat is a sales pitch. If you miss the boat, there's no such thing. I'm Corey Quinn. Thank you all for listening to me. I will be around the rest of the day. I'm the one that will look like this and vaguely unemployable. Yeah, that's the one. I don't know if you have time for Q&A. If not, I can take it later. You can also find all of my other nonsense at shitposting.ai. Yes, that's a real aggregation site. Yes, it's the call to action. Yes, there is something deeply wrong with me. And no, we do not know what it is. Thank you. Did you have to nuke the city on the last slide? Oh, yeah. One of the reactors got out of control for the AI data centers. How did I make those animations? With AI. It's amazing, man. Yes, there will be a resume review thing. I am terrible at resumes. Talk to the people who are good at it. No, the question is how do you, the entry-level jobs going away, how do you make space for that in companies? It's a hard and ongoing problem because part of the challenge when someone's new to the workforce, they're bringing a perspective and they're bringing a willingness and drive, but they aren't bringing a lot of experience of knowing how things work well. That is often the thing that adds value, but it's hard to build a job description around. Also, how do we do this in the age of AI? It's advancing so quickly. We don't have case studies yet. We don't see the answer to this. Everyone's sort of trying stuff and finding out. There's also, it's weird to say to a large room, but it's true. You don't need to find things that work for everyone when you're trying to figure out what's right for you. You are definitionally a statistical outlier. Embrace that. But that doesn't work to say, oh, and we're just going to tell an entire generation of people that you just each need to find something that works for you. That's like, go away, kid. You bother me. Why don't you just buy a house? It must be all the avocado toast you're eating. What do I recommend on college education versus certification and continue learning? Learning takes a bunch of different forms. I think that we sold an entire generation a bill of goods with, get a college degree. That's always the right answer. You'll be employable. Well, the jobs never really materialized. And now we're no more employable than we were 4 years ago. Only we're carrying 120 grand in debt or whatnot to do it. It's an investment, sure. Make sure that what you get out of it is worth what you put into it. There are a bunch of different paths. What's right for an individual is really up to them. But if you're debating, I'm going to go back to school and get a degree, cool. What is the outcome that degree will unlock for you? What do you want to do that requires the degree? Well, I want to be a surgeon. Yes, it's time for you to go back to school. Or you want to be a lawyer. Yes, same story. I want to be a shit poster on the internet. Well, there are alternate paths you can take to get there. Same with software engineering, as we like to call it. We're not PEs. We're not building bridges. We're building shitty React apps. What, am I wrong? Yeah, there's no one path. I think that whenever, I'm doing this because I'm supposed to do it, I like to question those assumptions. This does not always make me popular.